There is a story in the NFL that nobody talks about enough. It does not involve touchdowns. It does not involve contracts. It does not involve a Hall of Fame induction or a Super Bowl ring. It involves a little boy. A boy growing up in Gainesville, Georgia, watching his mother struggle, watching her work, watching her sacrifice everything she had just to keep the lights on. And one day, a stranger showed up, not with a check, not with a handshake, but with a house. A fully furnished house, keys in hand, for free. That stranger was an NFL running back named Warrick Dunn. And that little boy grew up to become one of the most talked about quarterbacks in the history of professional football, Deshaun Watson. This is that story. But before we get to Deshaun Watson, we have to understand why Warrick Dunn did this in the first place. Because this was not a marketing move. This was not a PR campaign. This was not a photo opportunity designed to generate positive press. This came from a wound so deep, so permanent, that no amount of NFL fame or franchise ownership was ever going to close it. To understand what Warrick Dunn built, you have to go back to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, January 7th, 1993. Warrick Dunn was 18 years old. He was already one of the most recruited high school football players in the country, committed to Florida State, his whole life laid out in front of him. His mother, Betty Smothers, was a Baton Rouge police officer, a single mother raising 6 children. She worked her regular shift and then picked up a second job, doing security at a grocery store, because a police officer's salary was not enough to raise 6 kids alone. On that night, January 7th, 1993, she was ambushed outside that grocery store and shot and killed. Murdered in cold blood. She was 42 years old. Warrick was 18. His youngest sibling was 6. And just like that, the man of the house. Read that again. 18 years old. 5 younger siblings. Mother gone. Overnight. There are moments in life that either break people completely or forge something inside them that nothing can touch. That night forged Warrick Dunn. He still went to Florida State. He had to, because he had a family to feed, and football was the only way he could see to do it. He became one of the best running backs in the country. He won the national championship. He was drafted 12th overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 1997. He started making NFL money. And almost immediately, he began thinking about other single mothers just like his, women carrying an impossible weight with nothing but their own will holding everything together. In 1997, the same year he stepped into the NFL, Warrick Dunn launched his charity. He called it Homes for the Holidays. The concept was straightforward. Find single-parent families, most of them mothers, who were working hard and raising children but could never break through to home ownership. Cover the down payment. And not just that. Fully furnish the house. Every room. Every appliance. Every bed. Every dish. Every towel. So when a mother walks through that door for the first time, she does not walk into an empty shell. She walks into a home, a real, complete, ready to live in home. Let that sink in. This man lost his mother at 18 years old. Then he spent the rest of his career trying to protect other women's children from that exact kind of instability. He understood something at a cellular level that most wealthy athletes never grasp. The most destabilizing thing in a child's life is not the absence of a father. It is the absence of permanence. It is moving from apartment to apartment. It is watching your mother count change. It is falling asleep, not knowing if the address you are sleeping at tonight is the same one you will wake up at tomorrow. Warrick Dunn decided to end that story for as many families as he could reach. Now let us pause and talk about what that actually costs. Generosity at this scale has a price tag, and Warrick Dunn paid it personally for years before corporate sponsors came in. The average down payment assistance per family runs between $10,000 and $20,000. Then you layer on top of that the cost of fully stocking and furnishing a home. Furniture, appliances, linens, pantry supplies, kitchenware. That adds another $5,000 to $15,000 per household, depending on size. Multiply that across 200 plus families, and you are looking at millions of dollars deployed directly into the lives of people who had no other path to homeownership. In the early years, Dunn was funding significant portions of this out of his own salary. His rookie contract was not a max deal. He was a first-round pick, but not a superstar contract player. He prioritized the charity before the mansion, before the cars, before any of the lifestyle markers that his peers were chasing from day one. That tells you everything about where his head was. And one of those families was the Watsons. Deshaun Watson was raising her children in Gainesville, Georgia, working, struggling, doing everything right by every possible definition, and still barely holding on. The math just never worked out in her favor. She was exactly the kind of woman Warrick Dunn's program was built for. And one day, Warrick Dunn Charities showed up and handed Deshaun Watson the keys to a furnished home of her own. Her son Deshaun was young. He absorbed every detail of what that moment meant. He watched what it did to his mother. He watched a woman who had been carrying a mountain finally put it down, just for a moment, in a house that was hers. That kind of moment doesn't just shape your childhood. It shapes your entire value system. It tells you what people are actually capable of doing for each other. It makes generosity feel like a moral obligation rather than an act of charity. Years later, when Deshaun Watson was drafted 12th overall by the Houston Texans in 2017, nearly the same draft position that Warrick Dunn had in 1997, the first thing Watson did was return the favor. He bought his mother a house. He spoke about it publicly. He spoke about Warrick Dunn. He spoke about what that key meant to a kid watching his mother receive something she never thought she deserved. The circle closed in the most poetic way possible. But here is what people miss when they tell the Deshaun Watson version of this story. The Watson family was one of over 200 families that Warrick Dunn helped through this program. Over 200 homes, over 200 single parents. Hundreds of children growing up with something they might never have had otherwise. Stability, the foundation that every human being deserves, but not everyone gets. Warrick Dunn built that quietly, consistently, for decades. Now let us talk about the financial architecture of Warrick Dunn, the businessman, because that story is just as powerful. Career earnings from the NFL totaled somewhere in the range of $30 to $40 million over an 11-year playing career with the Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. He played until he was 33, 9 Pro Bowl caliber seasons, a franchise record holder in Tampa, one of the most durable and elusive running backs of his generation. But money alone does not explain what Warrick Dunn has built. It is what he did with the access that the money gave him. In 2004, Warrick Dunn became a minority owner of the Atlanta Falcons. Think about that timeline. He was still a player, active on the field on Sundays, and he was simultaneously buying equity in an NFL franchise, not waiting, not retiring first, and then exploring opportunities, executing on both sides of the line at the same time. Today, the Atlanta Falcons are valued at approximately $5 billion. A minority ownership stake in that franchise, even a small one, represents generational wealth of a scope that goes far beyond anything his playing contracts could have built on their own. This is the part of the Warrick Dunn story that does not get told enough. His net worth is currently estimated between $10 and $20 million. But that figure likely understates the real picture because franchise equity is not always reflected cleanly in net worth calculations until a team sells. What we know is this: he is one of a very small number of black men who hold any ownership stake in an NFL franchise. That is not just a financial accomplishment. That is a structural one. That is positioning inside an institution that has historically positioned black men as labor and white men as ownership. Warrick Dunn sat at both tables simultaneously. Think about what that ownership stake actually means beyond the balance sheet. It means a seat in rooms where franchise decisions get made, stadium deal conversations, sponsorship negotiations, television contract structures. These are the financial conversations that shape billion-dollar outcomes, and Warrick Dunn has been inside those conversations for over 2 decades. The network that comes with NFL franchise ownership is arguably more valuable than the equity itself. You are in permanent business proximity to some of the most powerful financial actors in American sports. That access compounds silently over time in ways that are impossible to quantify from the outside, but are felt deeply by anyone inside the room. If you want to be a part of this community, getting the stories of Black wealth and power that mainstream media keeps burying, go ahead and join our channel membership right now. Hit the join button. Your support is what keeps this channel growing and keeps these stories coming. His business interests outside of football include a car dealership portfolio in the Atlanta area. He has owned and operated dealerships that generate consistent, recurring revenue completely detached from athletic performance. No knee injuries affect a car dealership. No contract disputes affect a car dealership. He understood early that the money from football had a shelf life, and that brick and mortar businesses created income streams that did not expire when his body did. He has also stayed deeply connected to the Falcons organization in ways that extend beyond the balance sheet. His role as a minority owner gives him proximity to franchise decision-making, to the networks that surround billion-dollar sports franchises, to the business conversations that happen in those rooms. That access compounds. It opens doors to co-investors, to development projects, to the kind of commercial real estate and partnership opportunities that never get posted publicly, but generate enormous returns for the people inside the circle. And through all of it, the charity never stopped. Warrick Dunn Charities evolved from Homes for the Holidays into a full-scale nonprofit organization with multiple programs. Financial literacy workshops for single-parent families, nutrition and fitness outreach, academic enrichment for children. He did not just give people a house and walk away. He built a support ecosystem around the families he served. Because a house solves the shelter problem, but it does not solve the wealth gap. It does not teach someone how to protect their equity, how to refinance strategically, how to use homeownership as a lever to build generational savings. His charity started trying to provide that education too. That is a different level of thinking. Most celebrity philanthropists write a check and put their name on a building. Warrick Dunn designed a system. He thought about the outcome he actually wanted, which was not just homeownership, it was wealth stability, and then worked backward to figure out what needed to exist to produce that outcome. That is the mindset of an operator, not a donor. And here is what ties all of this together. The reason the Deshaun Watson story hits so hard is not just because it is beautiful. It is proof of concept. It is documented, public evidence that what Warrick Dunn built actually works. A child who grew up in one of those homes became a first-round NFL draft pick, and that player used his first signing bonus to replicate the exact gift he received. That is not charity creating dependency. That is charity creating a replication engine. One act of generosity reproduced itself 1 generation later. Imagine that happening across 200 families. Imagine the ripple effect of that kind of investment spreading out across 30 years. You cannot put a dollar figure on that. Warrick Dunn lost his mother on a January night in Baton Rouge, and he turned that grief into the most disciplined act of legacy building the NFL has ever quietly witnessed. He played the game at the highest level. He bought into ownership before most players were even thinking about it. He built businesses that do not depend on Sunday afternoons. And he used the platform all of that gave him to hand keys to single mothers who never stopped working and never caught a break. And somewhere in that chain, a boy in Gainesville, Georgia, grew up to throw touchdowns in the NFL. And the first thing he did with his money was give his mother a house. The story starts with a mother who died giving everything she had. And it ends with hundreds of mothers getting everything they deserved. That is the Warrick Dunn legacy. Quiet, structural, permanent, and long overdue for the recognition it deserves. If this story moved you the way it moved us, leave a comment below. Tell us what part hit you hardest. And if you believe stories like this deserve more space on your timeline, subscribe to this channel and share this video, because this is the kind of Black excellence that does not make the front page, but it should.